Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, I almost wrote this story last night and I said, no, you know what? Who knows what can happen between last night and tonight? Let's see if any more ships get canceled. Because just the other day I announced Norwegian Cruise Line has just canceled a bunch of cruises and now Royal Caribbean has done the same thing. So yes, we had 8 different ships affected by Norwegian Cruise Line cutting sailings just a few days ago. And now Royal Caribbean has done the exact same thing. They have cut on 4 ships. The Vision of the Seas is set to return until March 7th. Now, it was supposed to restart, but now it's not going to do it until March 7th. Serenade of the Seas, all sailings up to and including March 5th. And then it will go into dry dock, and then it will return on April 26th for its first sailing. Jewel of the Sea, all sailings up until February 12th, returning to service on February 20th. And finally, the granddaddy of them all, the Symphony of the Seas, is postponed and closed until January 22nd. Returning to service on January 29th. Now, 3 of these ships were already in service, so it's not like they were, well, you know what, let's just not bring them online. These ones were already on service. But as you've probably heard, Royal Caribbean is having a bit of an issue with some of their crew members, especially some of their entertainment staff and things like that. So they are moving them to 2 of their ships that are no longer, that are not in service yet. And and a lot of people are saying, is that smart? Is that First of all, they're not hospital cases of COVID. They're people with mild symptoms, if symptoms at all. They've just tested positive and they have to be isolated. So it makes perfect sense to just move them to one of your own ships instead of transporting them to land, paying hotel costs, and then bringing them back. You already have your ships in service, so you just have to put the provisions on there for them. They can stay in balcony cabins, they can stay in the larger cabins, and they can have 1 per person. They're not like crew quarters are normally 2 people per stateroom, unless you're, someone in the higher entertainment venue or you're an officer. Yeah, it makes absolutely perfect sense. Now, Royal Caribbean has offered different things and they apologized to everybody. It is a very tumultuous time this month. And we've been saying that for a couple weeks now. This month is going to be hit or miss extremely for a lot of the cruises. Some of them are going to be canceled. Some of them are going to be postponed. Some of the ports you're going to miss. Sometimes you're going to quarantine. There's going to be more outbreaks than normal. This sort of thing is going on because of, it's the peak, shall we say, hopefully, knock on wood, it's the peak of the virus hitting right now. So it's going to be a very bad month in the news for all cruises. Now, one good story that has come out of this, because it was something I was concerned about, that because of the rise and because of all the pressure and the news media and all this, that the CDC was going to say on January 15th, you know what? We just got to keep everything in place. We're not going to end that CSO order or anything like that. We're going to keep it in place. In fact, we may have to introduce more restriction. But the CDC has actually come out and said, no, it's still going to be back on the cruise lines. They're doing what they can. Everything the CDC is suggested for the cruise lines to do, they've done and more. They've gone from 3-day testing to 2-day testing. They've installed new filtration systems on all the new ships. They've done dining differently. They've done dining in the buffet differently. Their cleaning regimen has ramped up to beyond anything you will find on land almost. So they can, they're doing exactly what they need to do and what they can. And the good news is the CDC seems to agree and the CDC is getting out of the cruise line business, shall we say, which I hope is for a long time to come. Now, there is some other good news in the industry, so I got that story. But before I tell you the good news, let me just invite you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, so you're up to date with everything cruising, for all the cancellations, all the restarts, what's happening with your ships, the dry docks, and even just as simple as cruise tips and vlogs. Doesn't cost anything. You'll just be notified, hey, Don put out another video. You can choose to watch it or not. And that's all it really does. But it really does help the channel out a lot, and I would really, really appreciate it. Okay, one of the best news stories that a lot of people have been waiting, because I didn't have the answer. All you can say is, well, they haven't canceled it yet because they hadn't. But that didn't mean that they weren't going to cancel it. And that is Hawaii. Hawaii. They kept on extending their protocols. They kept on extending their policies and the masking, etc. All the things they re-implemented. And then the Omicron variant, they've got record-breaking cases in Hawaii right now. Yet the cruise lines are still going. They haven't canceled cruise ship visits. Now, one of the big ones, the Pride of America, run by Norwegian Cruise Line, has been postponed. It won't be starting on its scheduled time, but that was a choice by the cruise line, not Hawaii. As we speak, the Grand Princess is on its way to Hawaii and will reach there this weekend. So, yeah, we finally have cruise ships heading to Hawaii. Will all cruise lines be sending their ships to Hawaii? No, but it's a start. You got to get your foot in the door. And there was some concern. A lot of people were in Hawaii, said, hey, how can you allow thousands of visitors off cruise ships in our small island and everything when cases are on the rise so much? And even the medical professionals and the hospital administrators came out and said, look, we're getting more cases, but in all actuality, it's much milder than it was before. In fact, out of all the cases currently in hospital, half of them in the hospital with COVID didn't know they had COVID when they arrived in the hospital. They came in for other reasons. So they came in because they were going to go for surgery, or they came in with a broken arm. When you go to the hospital, they automatically test you for COVID, and half of them are now tested positive, even though they didn't know they had it. So if you say you have 50 people in hospital and half aren't, in reality, you have 25 people in hospital with COVID, for COVID, and 25 people in hospital with COVID that were there for something else, because they didn't know they had COVID. And that's a good thing. That means there's more and more people that, the numbers are up there, but the people who are actually in hospital because of COVID are probably much, much lower. And you're even seeing the hospital professionals here in Canada, United States, all coming out now and differentiating them and saying, these are the people in hospital because of COVID, and these are the people in hospital with COVID. There is a difference. If you break your arm and you test positive for COVID and you didn't know you had COVID, you're not really sick in hospital with COVID. And I think we're finally coming around to seeing that side of the story, and that can only mean better things as people learn how to cope with what's going on in the world and get more truer numbers of what's in hospital and what's not. But yeah, Grand Princess on its way to Hawaii. Unfortunately, Royal Caribbean, 4 ships canceled until later on in the year, including the Symphony of the Seas. Oh well, it's going to be a rocky month, everybody, so hang on tight. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.